Have you ever stopped to think that maybe our entire reality, everything from the galaxies spinning out in the cosmos to the very DNA coiled inside you, might be built from just two incredibly simple shapes? We're talking about the point and the circle. This is a fundamental architecture of unity. So in this explainer, we're going to journey through this really powerful idea. We'll start by looking at geometry as the actual interface for your reality. Then we'll dive into the point as your center of self, and the circle as your biological field of safety. We'll also get into what happens when that center is off, and most importantly, how to recalibrate your own inner compass.
All right, first things first, we have to completely reframe what we think geometry even is. Believe me, it is so much more than just a class you might have taken back in school.
I want you to think of it like this. Geometry isn't just about dusty textbooks and measuring angles. It's the underlying operating system, the OS, that lets your consciousness actually interact with the quantum field. You know, that invisible, energetic soup of pure potential? Geometry is how all that potential gets organized into the world you see and touch every day.
So the point and the circle, they're not just shapes. They're more like fundamental lines of code. And like any code, once you understand the logic, once you see how it works, you suddenly get the ability to rewrite the program, to change the output of your own reality.
So, how does this architecture actually build our world? Well, it all starts with the origin of everything, a single, solitary point of awareness.
And this is where things get really fascinating. You've got modern physics, right? People like Stephen Hawking telling us the entire universe exploded from an infinitely dense singularity, a point. And at the exact same time, you have ancient wisdom from thinkers like Drunvalo Melchizedek, saying creation begins when consciousness first wakes up in the void, as a single point. Two different languages saying the same thing.
So that cosmic creative starting point, that's not just some abstract idea. It's a perfect mirror for your own awareness. That quiet, inner sense of I exist, your core identity, that is your personal singularity. It's the geometric center from which your entire reality literally unfolds.
Okay, next up, let's see what happens when that point of awareness does its very first creative act. It expands, and in doing so, it creates the very first boundary.
This expansion naturally forms a circle. It's the simplest, most perfect container imaginable. And this circle, it becomes your personal space, your field of influence. It's the fundamental geometric line in the sand that defines what is you versus what is not you.
And get this, our brains are biologically programmed to absolutely love this shape. There's a whole field called neuroaesthetics that's found a universal human preference for curves. We look at them and we feel safe, we see beauty, we feel complete. Meanwhile, sharp, angular shapes, they can subconsciously put us on high alert.
And we had the scans to prove it. Neuroimaging shows that our amygdala, which is basically the brain's alarm system, it actually powers down when we look at curves. It becomes hypoactivated. But sharp objects, they can light it up like a Christmas tree. The circle, our very first boundary, is seen by our biology as a zone of safety. But, and this is a big but, this perfect, safe geometry relies on one absolutely critical factor. The point has to be in the true center. So let's take a look at what happens when it's not. And this, right here, is the core problem for so many of us in the modern world. What happens if the center of your circle, that point you're generating your reality from, isn't actually your true I am? What if instead you've put your job there, or someone else's expectations, or maybe even your own fears right at the center of it all?
This leads us directly to a mind-blowing concept from chaos theory called sensitivity to initial conditions. All it means is that a tiny, almost unnoticeable change at the very beginning of something can lead to massively different results down the line. It's the whole butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil and sets off a tornado in Texas idea, the famous butterfly effect. The mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot gave us the perfect visual for this with his fractals. He showed how a simple formula, when you repeat it over and over, creates these infinitely beautiful and complex patterns. But, and this is the part that matters for us, if you change that initial formula even a tiny bit, the whole pattern collapses into chaos. This is the mathematical proof of what we're talking about. If your starting point, your I am, is off-center, the entire fractal of your life, your health, your work, your future, it all becomes unstable.
So if a displaced center is literally the mathematical formula for chaos in our lives, then the solution becomes pretty clear, doesn't it? We just have to find our way back. We have to learn how to recalibrate.
how to return to our true center.
And we can do this with a really simple, practical protocol. Step 1. Just acknowledge it. Recognize that your quiet, observing awareness is the true point. Step 2. Concentrate. Spend just 5 minutes focusing on that inner center, really feeling it as your source. And step 3. Define. From that centered place, you now get to consciously define your circle for the day.
This then becomes a daily practice. We can call it the geometry of the day. You, as the architect of your reality, take a moment each morning to decide what energy, what tasks, what people are you consciously allowing inside your circle of attention today, and just as critical, what are you intentionally leaving outside that boundary?
At the end of the day, it all comes back to this one thing. Every single moment, you are placing that initial point, and within that single point lies the seed for either a life of coherence and order or a life of instability and chaos. So the only real question left to ask is, where is your attention centered right now?